Okay, we got all the speakers here. Welcome, Snekmasters. Welcome, Dakota and Gabe.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Say hello, thank you. Excited.
Hello, everyone.
Beautiful. Okay, I can say now that we can get started. So, my name is AJ. I am the social media manager here at the InvArch Network. And I'll first give a rundown of the Twitter Space agenda for today's first episode of Tinker Talks and what the audience, as well as the speakers, can expect. So, we'll start off with more personal introductions of both Snekmasters and Dakota and Gabe from InvArch Tinkernet, who you are, what you do, including a brief introduction. Well, followed by that, a brief introduction of what Basilisk and Tinkernet are as parachain projects in the Kusama ecosystem. Next, we'll go through a series of questions for both teams in which the Snekmasters and Dakota and Gabe will answer in great detail, respectively. From there, approaching the end of the Twitter space, we will open up the floor to our audience to give them the opportunity to ask questions they may have and would like to ask of either teams or both if such questions warrants answers from both parachain teams. And to end off the Twitter space, we'll have both Snekmasters, including InvArch Tinkernet's Dakota and Gabe, to give their final statements as a send-off to our awesome audience here with us today. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Beautiful. Great. So let's first begin, like I've glossed over, more personal introductions, backgrounds from the Snekmasters, followed by introductions from Gabe and Dakota. And then we'll go through brief project introductions of both Basilisk Finance and Tinkernet. So with our lovely guests, who are the Snekmasters?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jakub or Jacob. I co-founded Z Prime Capital and from pure love to Polkadot in late 2018, early 2019, where we were super excited to see cross-chain DeFi when cross-chain, or like thinking about cross-chain was like very laughable idea. We were tinkering actually as well with Substrate while we didn't have actually much mandate on it, from which we got actually to developing HydraDX and then Basilisk, because also like where we were playing with all kind of the prehistoric DeFi, something like Omnipool was really like missing to us, and we were waiting a lot until someone will appear and start building, but like really no one like show up. And when we were thinking how to contribute to Substrate and Polkadot space and how to dig deeper and how to start developing something on it, we developed actually one of the first indexer, or like one of the first indexing solutions, which was back then used for as a validator node monitoring tool, from which we moved to building Hydra. And then when we were deploying first stuff on first iteration of Rococo, which was actually first parachain testnet, and then we saw that parachains and XCM are finally coming to Kusama. We didn't want to deploy on Kusama the canary network of Hydra, but we actually realized that we can deploy there something what is much more suitable or much better fit for the experimentations, which was actually the Basilisk code base, which was used by our team and our developers for tinkering with more convenient type of AMMs like XYK. Then after we introduced the order matching similar to call swap, that kind of XYK flavored stuff. LBP, after we went through the LBP on balancer, like immediately after that we were thinking how we can improve LBPs and how it would be cool if we will re-implement it as a palette. Substrate, in Rust, and a couple of others like stablecoins, and then like playing with NFTs and what we can do with NFTs. And then like we realized like that shit, like we have like solid code base for parachain, which actually doesn't need to be just Canary, but the solid addition to Kusama ecosystem, and to add value to Kusama ecosystem much better than Omnipool, or just like confuse people like what is Canary and like what is the main network and what's like these weird relationships. Yeah, and that's pretty much how we got here with Snek.
So that's awesome. I'll dive in off that. I'll go in and talk about InvArch. That's actually really awesome, and obviously because we're using the services, I'm really grateful for that journey ended up that way. But with InvArch, I mean, so what kind of got us specifically into this ecosystem, like why build here versus elsewhere? And first and foremost, it's important to understand that because of the design of Polkadot and XCM, there are some inherently unique use cases that are only now possible or becoming more feasibly realized thanks to Substrate, thanks to this more modular development framework. But so looking into the space, because we had this obviously this grand idea for InvArch for IP, but the biggest thing is that in this vision, when imagining the primitives that we have now, which are IP sets, these wrappers around NFTs that they essentially turn NFTs into just really powerful DAOs, or they can gamify them, do whatever you want, but they're really crazy. But the thing is that for this vision of ours, we also imagine this very interconnected kind of system of developments where there's an invention and someone innovates on top of that, and a few people make derivatives of that, which are innovations, and some people can build on top of those things, and so on and so forth. But the point is, it's important that the data is able to be connected together, but across any ecosystem, not siloed in kind of in one environment that is very limiting, and it kind of restricts our vision for a new, interconnected, and very prosperous creator economy. So with that, doing our research and coming across the Polkadot vision, diving into obviously Substrate, which is a very powerful, very fast, but modular framework to get going fast. That is. So with all this, we came across it all, and it was exactly what we needed. It provided the level of interoperability, not even just off the bat, but the future proofness, so to speak. Forkless runtime upgrades, the ability to evolve, very versatile on-chain governance, provided us everything to where we have, this is, as we see it, like the perfect toolkit for us to build a chain that will be future-proof or can be future-proof. And that's kind of like got us into the mix here. Regarding InvArch itself, a lot of individuals here probably know the story, but it just started out very simply as in really, really simple terms, just two people having ideas that they were necessarily too poor to do anything about, and they wanted some type of solution. But it's really just been a mission to unlock potential, unlock value, bridge the value between individuals, whether that be their ideas, whether that be their skills, their contributions, or even their finances, but to make a system with a lot of synergy among these different actors in the creative process, and to provide a powerful new framework that people can build very, very powerful in a new way, build like just a bunch of modular building blocks, build this new creator economy that is interconnected, that can work together, that can flow, and well, here we are now.
Indeed, and thank you both for those introductions into Basilisk and InvArch and InvArch Tinkernet. Two very important and powerful parachains, I would say, in the Dotsama ecosystem. Basilisk, permissionless liquidity on Kusama for young projects, fungibles, and NFTs, and Tinkernet, the square one for innovation, the most advanced NFT primitives protocol on Kusama network. So let's move on to the question series of this Twitter space. So first, we'll go ahead with Basilisk, and the first question is: projects onboarding as parachains onto Kusama are on the surface seen as just simply that, parachains on the Kusama relay. Now, I know that Basilisk is not just another canary network. Could you explain to our audience what that means and what distinguishes Basilisk as a parachain that isn't just another canary network on Kusama?
That means TLDR that Basilisk is committed to Kusama ecosystem, and will stay there for 99% of its time. That's the first thing, and the second thing, like, it won't be copying features of Hydra. We will try to keep Hydra as lean but as powerful as possible, but in the same time as secure and safe because of this like aggregated and concentrated model. While Basilisk will be much better fit for new tokens, which might fail actually, which unfortunately might be also scams. Like in the permissionless ecosystem, is like hard to avoid all the scams attempts everywhere where a lot of money are at stake. It will attract scammers. Unfortunately, that's the like harsh reality of crypto, which like most of you are pretty much aware. I'm pretty sure. So because of these things, like if you will look at the structure of Basilisk, you will see even right now, or at least on the runtime, deployed 3 different types of AMMs. So the first one is classical XYK, which will get this like order matching feature on top of it later on. Then stable swap AMM, and then LBP AMM, and we are obviously looking for more exotic type of AMMs, which will allow trading of derivatives, most probably perpetual ones. Perps look like the best candidate. So the Basilisk is offering like better space for more tinkering, more experimentation alongside with our underestimated good NFT code base, which is like big inspiration to other projects, and hopefully we'll get more love from us and from others as well, so we can innovate not just DeFi space, but together with InvArch and all of you guys, or like broader community, also innovate to NFTs beyond just like profile pictures and funny apes or cool apes, but to use cases which are serving like normies and normal people. So when we will be describing to our parents and friends what we are doing, like it won't sound as nerdy as right now, right?
Awesome, very cool, thank you. And just like Basilisk, I know that Tinkernet is also not just another canary network. So to Dakota and or Gabe, could you explain to our audience what that means and what distinguishes Tinkernet as a parachain that isn't just another canary network on Kusama?
I guess so. With that, it's really important. I want to hop off what was just said too. It's really important to first understand 2 things: the Kusama vision and then the full InvArch vision. And I guess so with Kusama, it's kind of chaotic how it came about in its own self, but it's recognized that there is an innovative process between ideation and creation, and in between this process, you kind of, it's especially specifically in code and Web3, in what we're building, can be absolutely crucial to battle test your code, your protocols, functions. You really need to test everything out, but in 2 senses. You need to test things out regarding security, and you need to test things out regarding actual use. You may have an idea for how something will work out or how it may be used by a community, but how that actually plays out could be something entirely different. So it's very important to have an arena and an environment where you can battle test things. You can actually see in a live environment. Otherwise, it's the results that you're seeing, how people interact is not as pure as accurate it would be to like a real test out in the real world. So with this, it's very crucial to understand like the purpose that Kusama plays in the vision for Polkadot, why it exists, why it is significant, why it's there. It's more than just than like a proving ground, like you have major league and minor league. It's far different from that. It's a very essential piece of this process. And with that, with the larger InvArch vision, talking about this new creator economy and what we truly do believe to be a paradigm shift. Every couple hundred years there are massive changes in economic systems and how value is produced and who it is produced for. Typically, we've seen where individuals they work and they work and they work very hard to produce value for others, typically for the benefit of others, typically for the boss. But now with this creator economy, individuals are able to produce value for themselves and share that more directly with others. And it's a very empowering paradigm shift, which is why I believe it will ultimately be what ends up taking shape. Just over the world now. So with all of that, there's this process of innovation. You have ideation all the way to the actual end bits, and through that process, it's very important that you have, when you first get started, you need support, whether that is through philanthropy, through investments, through community support. You need, typically, it's healthy to have some type of feedback loop. And with Tinkernet, it's exactly what it provides. It's important to understand that it is the square one for innovation. So this is where individuals will go to get started. This is where they can access crowdfunding opportunities, whether that's through IP staking, which is similar to DApp staking. This is staking for NFTs and community-driven crowdfunding, or if that's through IP donations, in which the more philanthropical type people out there are able to actually donate either the direct funds or their staking rewards to a project that they support, or the latter. There's farming, which is kind of similar to on-chain like ICO mechanics, just with more security and protection for both ends for the people seeking to support something mainly. But the thing is that there's this whole staging ground for where people are able to get going, get started, and then they get started, they build, and then when they build, they need a place. Okay, like here we are, here's our beta, and we want to see in this environment, like we want to see people test it out, and not just test it out to provide feedback for what's broken or what could be fixed for this bug, but we want to actually see with real money, like how do people use this? How do real degens go for this stuff? You know what I mean? Like what's the real feedback? And then through that process of validation, that screening, in a sense, that's how you come to realize that, okay, we have a sound, good product that people enjoy. They use it this way, and then that's when you want to bring it over to, in this case, to InvArch, to whether you want to look at it as an enterprise net or as just the more form. This is the place that you would trust leaving your, letting your grandmother explore. This is the safe spot. This is the place where people. This is where the web that is more soundly built. This is where that will be. And there is this important process to get there, I do believe. It's important to follow this process. It's important for community building as well. And because this is a permanent part of the innovation process, Tinkernet is a permanent part of the InvArch vision.
I would just kindly add that by Canary Network, or what is Canary Network and what is not just Canary Network, I don't want to undermine the role of Canary Networks. Actually, I think like big underappreciated function of the Canary Networks, which didn't materialize yet, is the Canary Networks are a huge opportunity for people without any background, without any contacts, without much money and etc., but who are like smart and hardworking, who can graduate by working or contributing to these canary networks, to the core contributors of the main networks. But even better, like very often is happening, not just in Dotsama, but in the whole crypto, that the decentralization ethos, or like label of decentralization, is usually just like, the charade, or like some label, which is
Nice
not
buzzword.
actually as buzzword, which is actually not much of true. But with canary networks, and most of them actually in Kusama network, is actually more broadly distributed to the wider community via crowd loans, often without VC allocation, as we could see on Moonriver, but also on the Tinkernet. That it actually is like great chance, or like great opportunity for communities of hardworking people, if they will get pissed by the core teams and core developers, overtake the projects from them and steward it in the better way, in better for them, if they will feel that the core team isn't actually fulfilling the vision to which they sign up, or if they basically, I don't know, they realize that the great project is here just for like quick buck or something like that. It's like such opportunity is like nowhere else in crypto, but in Dotsama.
I love that point. Actually, that's actually a really, really good point.
Definitely. Opportunity, I would say, is quite abundant right now. And talking of opportunity, I mean, we are here to talk about the LBP. So quite a few of us on the Twitter Space stage and the audience are quite bright and informed. But for those who aren't too familiar, an LBP, a very powerful feature tool for projects. However, it is a new service to this ecosystem. Would you mind explaining to Basilisk, to our listeners, what an LBP is and what makes it so unique?
Sure. So the LBP is like innovative type of AMM introduced by Balancer team, I think somewhere in the 2020, based on their observations of Uniswap listings. And like nice feature of the Uniswap listing was that it is like completely permissionless, and it was actually taking down the barrier of listing token on some very accessible exchange, because like usually before the Uniswap, the usual process was like super costly for every ICO and for every project. So you had to pay from like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, even to like single digits of millions, to exchanges like Binance, and also give them a lot of your funds for market making, plus some decent supply of your tokens for the market making as well, which actually was often leading, especially on the most of the not legit exchange, but it was usually leading to these like pump and dumps activities. If not, it was still like super costly for the teams, so they were wasting a lot of resources just to be liquid. And in bear market, when the demand and liquidity evaporated, it wasn't actually useful at the end of the day too much to anything. But from the nature of XYK, a famous formula, you need to put 50% of the value on one side in your tokens, and 50% of the value in the pair currency. And as you know, the new project, it has like very abundant, or like infinite supply of their own native tokens, obviously, but they don't have as much of the pair currency, which is usually stablecoin or ETH, or I don't know, in case of Dotsama, it will be probably KSM and DOT. So it leads to another perverse mechanics. Either project needs to put from their pocket a lot of funds upfront again, or either what was usually the case of all Uniswap listings, they will put upfront just a little. So let's say, for example, $100,000 or less on one side, and the second side in the like their perceived paper value. So they are also like setting price by themselves. And as the pool is very shallow, and because it's like XYK, it usually was leading to big pump and dumps. Again, like we can see like many Uniswap listing going 10x, 20x, causing big community hype. Then retail obviously jumping to the hype bandwagon, and then like being burned or being front run, and then like all the bags being dumped on them. So like being disgusted and disappointed that like just taking a huge loss on their expense. So where is LBP innovating here? So the innovation part of LBP is that you can set any ratio which is better factoring that the treasury or the founding project has like abundant supply of the tokens. So let's say you can set up pool which is starting with weights not 50-50, but for example in a ratio of 90 of the token projects, and just 10% of the more scarce asset, and another which is much better for the price discovery or like for the initial price. But not just that, but another innovation of the LBP is that the pool is actually by itself shifting weights towards the end weights which you can set up. We are offering to do this in one step. So for example, Tinker LBP will be ending in 50-50 weights, and then it will move automatically to the normal pool. So guys from InvArch doesn't need to like after ending of LBP pull out the liquidity and then like manually set up the new pool, but it will happen automatically. And these shifting of weights are actually causing price decrease, which is counterintuitively great for the price discovery in a way that it discouraging whales or people who have like FOMO or just bots, which were also like often set up on the every new Uniswap pool. They are discouraging to buy and front run ordinary users, because these shifting weights are causing the price is actually decreasing. So, or like it looks like the price is constantly dumping. So it's up to users and up to like broader community to find out what is the reasonable price for them to buy. If it's like still too high for them, they can just wait a couple of hours or even like a couple of days to try to scoop the tokens at lower price. Also, it doesn't need to happen, but the price discovery is lasting at least few days instead of like in one big dump. So the whole process is like more dynamic, and it has like more feedback loops. And on top of it, based on our observations and based on like our experiences to going through LBPs on Balancer, even if we put upfront like something like more than 1 million of DAI in our pool, it wasn't enough actually to stop or rationalize the buy pressure of hype around the HDX. So we come up with the idea of so we realized that even that our million was, or like it was 1.2 millions actually, it was still not enough So we came up with the idea like, what if some teams, if they know that there will be probably like big buy pressure anyway, and the LBP won't be functioning as much as it will be intended. So the like initially dump, and after a few hours maybe find the bottom, or after a few days and then go up, but it will go more up than you would expect it. Then you need like more liquidity upfront. But like young teams, they don't have it, and if they have it, they probably sell a lot of the supply for cheap to whales or to the VCs. So we came up with the concept of so-called repayment fee, which means that actually you can or like you can borrow these funds actually from some pool of stablecoins, or from some pool of tokens, from different account, put it in the initiate the LBP, and this repayment fee, which is actually quite high, is around 10 or 20%, or it's like is also up to the team. It will be like artificially discouraging front runners even more than usual LBP mechanics, and it will go down to the smaller fee just until this initial liquidity was repaid. Not sure if I describe it very well, but TLDR, our innovation is that you can lend as a project more liquidity without selling a lot of tokens to VCs, and this liquidity can be repaid during LBP trustlessly without touching these funds. And from the subject of this repayment fee is actually discouraging front running and like pumping and dumping the price in LBP until these funds are repaid, even more than traditional LBP. So I hope you understand it.
I say for that's actually, I appreciate that, because that was, I think that's the most thorough, I think, breakdown that we've heard, at least like yet in the ecosystem. So that's good. And like I'd say if people out there that because this is important to underscore for the people out there that are a bit more degen minded, more ape minded, that are like, you hear go and you go. The reason, the importance here that we're underscoring is that and the significance of an LBP is, at first the price starts up high and then it goes downwards until, due to how the market reacts, it stabilizes. And the reason for this, for anyone who's out there like, why start high, why go low? It's because if it starts out very, very low, at the lowest point possible, and what can happen is someone, or a bot most likely from the very start, can jump in and for very cheap buy a whole bunch of tokens and pump the price up. And when everyone sees that, they think, oh, cool, good project. And then they run over to go put their money into it. But then what's happening is, as they're putting their money in, the bot is selling their tokens to them and thus front running them. And then they get left with all these tokens at this value, and they're, like, this, it's not very, not ideal. It's very artificial. So the idea here, again, it's not, because someone might be asking like, okay, so if it's going to keep going down, then why won't I wait until the very last second and I'll get them as cheap as possible? And it's because it's not exactly how it works either, in the sense that there's constant downwards pressure. However, there's a bit of risk involved, like a Dutch auction, where once the market does start to react, so, if once the price gets down to a certain point, if people start to buy up the token at that price, then the price will stabilize around that point. So if your plan was to buy it at an even lower price than that, you may never get that opportunity. And then the price could possibly start to rise slightly. And at which point, then you could potentially end up, if you did want to buy in, at a higher price. So it gets, it's all about, it's a really good organic way of just letting the market decide how things go, versus giving a lot of control to who's the fastest at the start of things.
Yeah, exactly. Because like setting arbitrary price of anything is usually going like very bad. In our part of the world was under 40 years of arbitrary setting price of everything. Even right now, every central banks are setting in like very arbitrary way the price of the money via interest rates. You can see all of us what is it doing to all asset classes. So yeah, instead of like setting like arbitrary price, you are letting it for the market. So whoever will be buying it like super soon, uh, doesn't matter if because of FOMO or because he was able to have some like unfair advantage over others. It might happen very easily that this this participant will be stuck at like very high price, and everybody after him will get much better price. So yes, so it's discouraging FOMO, and it's discouraging front running of in any possible way. So TLDR on LVPs.
And another benefit, having participated in a few LVPs before on Ethereum network, being just a normal retail guy, you sort of have to choose your entry point and shoot your shot when you're paying 10 to $100+ in a bull market for gas fees and the likes. It's worth noticing that on Basilisk, transactions are approximately 12 BSX, which means it's 0.2 cents for a trade. So even if you've got small bags, you can spread it out over more trades, more entry points, rather than having to ape in at one point. So that helps the sort of natural price discovery too.
Oh yeah, like I remember that a lot of small guys, they had actually something like 3 to 5 failed transactions because bots or like big whales were front running them while they were like buying manually or something. So yeah, so the transactions were failing actually in the similar time. There was like big a lot of actions going on the ETH. So people who were buying 500 worth of HDX actually paid for it 500 worth of ETH for it. So their like purchasing price was double. So crazy. So that's why we are exciting to host it on like much scalable and cheaper platform.
That's awful. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be sick. Yeah, pretty sick experience.
Yeah. Like when we saw this, when we were analyzing the data after the LBP, we choose to like distribute the unsold tokens to these folks. Basically, it's like the appreciation for the effort.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for explaining what an LBP is, and with everyone else chiming in. That was an awesome conversation relay, I would say. Now for Tinkernet, for Dakota and or Gabe, the community has seen a lot of amazing progress come out of the InvArch and Tinkernet team. With that, GitArch and etc. So with the LBP on the horizon, how does token utility tie into all of these projects?
So for that, well, Gabe, do you wanna pick this one up? Gabe.
Gabe is probably coding. Gabe is contributing to GM.
Wait, what?
No.
Gabe,
or building GitArch.
Maybe he's having a connection issue. I'm not sure. Well, I say regarding with the LBP and just token utility. So regarding the utility for Tinker. So obviously there's the obvious things. There's transaction fees. There is governance, but it's important to note, as Basilisk just said, and it's a really this is a really powerful thing when you think about the long game and you think about not just the battle for developers, but in the end, the battle for the world of users out there. transaction fees are very, very minuscule. They're pennies, if not sometimes they are fractions of that. So with that, the typical tidbits of utility, people always be like, yeah, transaction fees and governance. But that aside, one of the really powerful things for Tinker is that you'll be able to use Tinker in, like we mentioned before, we call our OSIF, on-chain innovation funding protocol, which realizes NFT-based staking and on-chain farming and donation mechanisms to support innovation. Tinker being the primary currency for which individuals, of course, this is the main currency that individuals would stake. And how that process works is through staking. Individuals get their staking rewards, but then inflation-generated rewards are then distributed to proposed IP sets. And how they're distributed is based off of community support. Community support is garnered via the staking process. So when an individual, when they stake their token, yes, there's a collator back there, but there's like this proxy, this wall in front of them of projects, and they can choose one or more of those projects that they support and how much they supported out of their their allocation, but choose projects they support, and through that proxy, so they have to do that through this process, and then the amount that they're staking is equal to their voting weight. They're not staking their tokens directly to these NFTs exactly. It's just again like an integrated process through the staking mechanism to elect projects that you support, and then it's through this voting that the inflation derived funds on Tinkernet, it's 10%, InvArch 7.5, but those funds are then distributed to those individuals. Tinker will also be the token needed. We'll start off with that, and then we're going to follow up. It's actually third on the list, but we'll follow up with IP donations, which is, I think, very straightforward. Not necessarily on the lucrative front, but considering that there is a dire call for transparent open source donation protocols and tools, we believe this will be very, very powerful. Elon Musk, apparently, I'm not going to go out there and spam him on Twitter, but as he says, he'd be willing to donate $2 billion, like right off the poof, out of nowhere, if, where he'd be donating if there was open source donation tracking and things like that. So whether it's for him or someone, a lot smaller in the wallet, we're excited for this as a powerful tool to, help encourage innovation, empower people, uplift them. And with IP farming, so through this process, there can be an NFT, and pegged to this asset could be one or more fungible classes of tokens. And obviously, those tokens have a certain utility. Individuals are able to offer it's very similar to like ICOs. There's a set amount of allocation that they're providing, and individuals are able to divert a portion or all of what would have been their staking rewards. They can instead divert those funds to that project, or to the project, that NFT, in exchange for some of those peg tokens. We call them IP tokens. And there's this process to make sure that there's a minimum threshold that must be met in a certain amount of block time, or else the staking rewards are otherwise released back to the staker. But the thing is, powering all of this and remembering that Tinkernet is where innovation, this is where it starts, where it gets going, where it comes to life. And it's going to be the Tinker token that is really fueling all of that. Not just the transactions that take place over the network, but will actually be the currency for fueling and funding innovation. So really excited about that. And then, of course, you be able to trade, you be able to stake, you'll be able to trade, and we'll have our LP pool with Basilisk, with Snek. So excited for that. But as far as the raw utility, it's really focused on driving innovation there. So just excited for all of that.
Beautiful, thank you. Now back to Basilisk. Why would someone prefer to participate in an LBP versus an LP, also known as a liquidity pool?
So was that? I like spaced out for a second. Was that a question for us or for Basilisk?
Sorry, that is for Basilisk.
I think Jacob may have covered this in the extensive answer to the last one, but TLDR, LBP is a launch mechanism for early stage projects, tokens that haven't gone through a price discovery process by that point. A liquidity pool is where tokens are available to purchase that are already gone through that process. In terms of a project launching versus, in an LBP versus an LP, that would be the aforementioned, anti-front running mechanisms of the start high, go low process, and the capital efficiency of starting the pool with, really lopsided weights. So say, for example, 1, 2, 5% of, USDC or some other stable versus the other 95, 98% being in your native token. So just more flexibility. And on Basilisk with the repay feature, again, you can easily repay those startup funds rather than having to dig deep and potentially dig out millions in stables.
Yeah, and I would also like to add that later on we will be introducing other capital formation mechanisms. For example, via our auction palette, projects would be able to do treasury deals via auction mechanism. So even if someone will go through the LBP or not, because already also there is bunch of projects which unfortunately got listed before us on centralized exchanges, so they already had some price, but it's not actually very good situation, because the liquidity on these some of the centralized exchanges is very poor. They can conduct the treasury deals via our auction palette, so the projects can put some of the tokens from the treasury, or for example, you can auction even NFTs representing IP rights to something, and make an auction for it, because the project behind this raise needs more funds for the development or for more research. And what we are super exciting is innovating more on these capital formation mechanisms, because I didn't mention in my intro that my early crypto career was actually being ICO detective. So I was doing deep due diligence on shit ton of ICOs. I read hundreds or maybe thousands of fucking white papers for very stupid ideas, from the scammers, from the very suspicious projects. Me and my team, we exposed tens of scams. Obviously it was super time consuming, and it was during the ICO hype in 2017 and 2018, and I was really surprised, why is no one raising funds in a way that they won't get all the funds upfront, but these funds will be unlocked based on community voting. And I hope this is something where UDLDAO is heading via their innovations on the multi-sig sides and NFT based governance, etc. So this LBP is very much beginning of better capital formation in crypto, and I hope we will reiterate to much more powerful mechanisms. But we and Tinkernet needs to start somewhere, right?
Definitely, and this is truly exciting stuff. Personally, I would say. Now for InvArch Tinkernet, for new builders in the space, or just those interested in Tinkernet, would you mind explaining what makes NFTs on Tinkernet so special and unique compared to other ecosystems, and how these NFTs can exist in other parachain ecosystems?
Say Gabe is back from the
Is this working now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. So to start off, the NFTs in Tinkernet, they are the base NFTs. They are Remark NFTs. So they still retain all the feature set of Remark, but then on top of that, we have a wrapper around it, which gives it both the perfect NFT, makes it both the perfect NFT primitive and also the perfect DAO primitive, because it allows you to have ownership over over those NFT assets inside of it, and also over fungible assets that it owns in a completely fractionalized manner. And those fractions can also have completely different ranks with different permissions, different voting weights. So it becomes a very powerful DAO, but also a very powerful NFT primitive. You don't have to use it as a DAO. You can just use it as a wrapper around an NFT. So the way we're building this is to serve not only our dApps, but also applications and protocols that anyone wants to build on top of it. So it can be used for a lot of different things. An example of that is GitArch. We are using it as a complete replacement for GitHub, where you can store your code on IDFS as NFTs on Tinkernet, and use these primitives as your permission system. So where in GitHub you would have a centralized service telling which accounts can and cannot push code, which accounts can and cannot modify things. Where in GitArch, these NFT primitives, using the concept of them as DAOs, they give these permissions in a trustless manner. You don't have to rely on a centralized source to say which accounts can and cannot do things inside of your repository. So the main point here is you can have all the features of generalized NFTs, but building on Tinkernet and eventually in InvArch, you have so much more that you can build complete dApps without even relying on smart contracts. If all you need is state on chain and execution through multisig, but then connecting to other parachains, we will allow them to be so much more than just that concept on the Tinkernet chain and InvArch chain. For example, XCMing with star and Shiden in the case of Tinkernet, you'll be able to use these NFTs as DAOs controlling smart contracts. Connecting to Fala, you can do the same, but with Web 2 interactions and a complete background running contract, not necessarily relying on the chain. But then also you can connect with Turing to have scheduling and automation. So the possibilities here are endless. Oh, with Qt, for example. So the thing with Qt is don't even necessarily have to XCM with Qt to have all the Qt power. So for example, we're adding Qt authentication to GitArch, and all that requires is that the dApp itself can connect with the Qt chain. But then you can also, when we eventually, since Qt is moving to Polkadot, when we have InvArch over there, we can connect to Qt to give all those enterprise solutions also enterprise authentication. And eventually we can also do that in Tinkernet with XCM over bridges. But the point is, we don't like to step on anyone else's toes. We like to do what we do best and then connect with everyone else to offer what they do best to people building on Tinkernet.
Thank you, Gabe, so much for that response. So final questions for both teams. First with Basilisk. In different ecosystems, LBPs exist and have their own user bases and their own community, security, etc. what makes Basilisk's LBP different from others, and why would I prefer a Basilisk LBP over another ecosystems?
So it might be fun just because we talked about like a lot of the big benefits at this point. I'd say about what makes like Basilisk like really innovative, very powerful. Like I don't mean like cut in, but I think it'd be maybe a cooler question, or maybe a more fun question to ask during this experience, being that you guys are the pioneers of LBP in the Dotsama ecosystem. You're the very first to bring it. It's not a feature that we otherwise have or would have without you all. So being that is the case, I guess like it'd be interesting if you guys like had any insights, or maybe like what would you say was the biggest challenge as builders when trying to pioneer a a new service in this ecosystem?
Yeah, I think we were like pretty vocal about it as so the most challenging things for building was actually like lack of standards and lack of other primitives, which were really missing. And it was like slowing us down to broad up end user facing product. Like it's not sure about other parachain teams, but building a pallet isn't like big challenge for us, or like big rocket science, while we were like super careful about it in the past. Like we are still, but from our experience right now, even like building more complex pallets is just like matter of few weeks. But then if you want to like make it work in a way that you are really proud of it, and it's not like another nerd anti UX thing, then the fun or sometimes pain will start. So there was like lack of proper bridges, lack of missing token standards, lack of SDKs for doing cross-chain transfers, for displaying stuff for the user on the UI, and all these lack of indexers, lack of blockchain explorers, lack of good wallets, and all of this stuff which we had to go through. That sometime in some point of time, actually in like July last year, we were so desperate that we were, for example, thinking about like doing our own wallet as a spin-off. But then we realized that actually for such a reason was funded Talisman, and we also funded in the seed round, because like it was like crazy that after so much time, the only UI for the whole Dotsama was Polkadot.js. And all my friends and all our relatives, when we were talking to them like how is Dotsama great, etc., and then they were like going to stake something, and they were doing it through the Polkadot.js. They were like, they thought that that we are crazy or something. So in the past there was like a lot of these primitives missing, but fortunately is not the case anymore in most of the cases. So kudos to everybody who came later after us. On the other hand, it's like still a lot of things missing, and a lot of other, or like big wave of new builders, which I hope will come. They will have like their life much more easier than, for example, you guys have right now. So yeah, it's a tax. It's a tax for, or like it's a cost for being early. On the other hand, also you have some other advantages of being early. So it's hard to pinpoint. It's hard to pinpoint just just one thing.
And on to the last question for Tinkernet.
And also, like, for example, a lot of tooling which was funded by Web3 Foundation grants. What was often like very frustrating was that these tools or these grants, they were like very outdated. So when we were like excited to use something from other teams in the ecosystem who got a grant to finish the thing or like to build it, then we find out a lot of times, or like most of the time, or all the time, that they are actually so outdated that they are absolutely not compatible with anything or with the like latest versions of Polkadot or Substrate or whatever. And actually, exactly for these reasons, I was telling to myself like, oh my god, like the guys from Oscoin, they fucked up so much by scratching Oscoin, and that's my like favorite story why I get so why I got so excited from GitArch, because not sure how many people here on this Twitter space they know what was the Oscoin. So TLDR, Oscoin was incentive layer for on top of decentralized GitHub, which was basically by game theory or like by staking model incentivizing developers to maintain useful open source library which you care about it because you are using it or your project is depending on it or you like it or like whatever. And some of these open source libraries or like some of these open source codes, they usually don't have like super easy way how to monetize them without like killing them or like without like extracting value from them on like very bad place. And how Oscoin was meant to be solve this was like the social graph of these repositories in the decentralized GitHub alternative, that there was like block rewards issued to these projects, something like dApp staking on Astar and Shiden. And it was like we were super hyped with my other colleagues to support Oscoin in 2019, and then they stopped communicating with us. But we realized they stopped communicating with everybody, and then they came out of nowhere again in 2021 in after 2 years, but with very sad news that they scratched this incentive layer for open source development, and they are keeping it just the decentralized GitHub. And yeah, I was so frustrated from this basically for years, and then I found out GitArch and have a call with you guys, and then find out that you basically came to the same model and the same conclusions without even knowing what is Oscoin. And then I got like really hyped about GitArch and how it can improve open source space, and especially in the like recent light of like censoring of Tornado Cash repositories, but all other stuff. Like I remember like how many of my developer friends were sad after the news that Microsoft is buying GitHub. So alongside with LinkedIn, I think so. Yeah.
So there's nothing like knowing that that your code and all the code bases out, majority of the code bases out there that we've built and depend on, you don't actually own it.
So yeah, I don't want to hype you too much, but what we were missing, like we were really missing GitArch, because we could stake or other people could stake on tooling which really matters to us and to others, and make it up to date and not being like funded ants and then like being outdated as fuck and useless. So yeah, it was so much money was wasted on these grants. It's crazy. Yeah, so Git Arch was missing to me.
Thank you so much, Jakob, for your amazing insights and sharing your experience. Now, for the last question for Tinkernet, why did you choose to pursue an LBP over other price discovery methods, and specifically, why did you choose to go with the Basilisk team
And if
for this
someone
important
thinks
milestone?
that I'm like hyping Git Arch too much, just like look at like history of Web3 Foundation grants, especially like wave 1, 2, or like all waves until right now, and try to look at these projects, like when was the last pull request on them, or how they are compatible with current versions of Substrate and Parachains, and you will find out that like maybe 95% of them is like useless and like outdated a lot. So yeah, because there was no incentive for the outgoing development on the teams, or like there was like no one really signaling that, oh, it really matters to us to continue developing this.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you. So Dakota and or Gabe, if you either of you would want to answer. So why did you choose to pursue an LBP over other price discovery methods, and choosing to go with the Basilisk team for this and very important milestone for InvArch Tinkernet?
So with this, I mean, it just really kind of comes back to our ethos. For any of you amazing people out there who have had the chance to like really like join our community, whether that's directly through InvArch or whether I see a lot of amazing looking Udals out there. So whether it's through Udal DAO, or just if you just met me or basically a member of our team at any event, we're usually building. We don't get to go out too much, but if you have, then you know that like we really like we just kind of genuinely are. I hope this doesn't sound like conceited, but like we're good people. We're like we care about people, other people. We're very selfless. At least we believe that. It's ironic. I'm not gonna say like it's entirely selfless, but like I truly believe that like I think it's ironic. You know, if someone's selfish, it's because they want to gain a lot. But you know, I say it's ironic because I really feel like if like the the most like unless you're thinking about like only the very next like what's in front of you in that moment, if you're not thinking long term, like then sure. But you know, when you have a long game and you look at like the bigger picture, then you know that I'd say like you take care of people, then the dividends that you get back, whether that's through, you know, financial support or growth, or just the growth of your community and your products, you'll find out that the rewards and those dividends are a tenfold whatever you would get from being selfish and looking to try and get the quick gain. So with like the and let me underscore, it doesn't mean that anyone who has not done an LBP is. I'm not saying that at all. It's not. That's not what I mean. But it's important to underscore that LBPs were not an available option in the ecosystem until now. But with that being said, there's two very important and core things to understand about our LBP, and it's the fact of which we've already talked about of the LBP mechanics themselves, but then also understand the condition of the market and why this is, in my opinion, I wouldn't have asked for a better time to pursue price discovery this way, and it's because it will be, I believe, the most organic and fairest it could possibly be for the project and for all of its supporters. If let's say if it was a bull market, you know, like if it was a bull market, we could go out there and mind you, like let's be very brutally fair here, you know, and honest with ourselves. Tinkernet and our technology, it's amazing. It's very powerful. And GitArch, like, yeah, call me biased, but it's going to be huge. It's going to change a lot of things and be very dynamic. But with all of that being said, we are currently building stuff. And with that, like, we're building these services out, but as far as like what's the actual valuation for that, if it was a bull market, we could, without even trying, could probably go out and secure some $100 million valuation. You know what I mean? And it'd be cool. You know, that's boom. It's a whole bunch of, that's a nice, you know, reward right there. But in the long term, though, when then the markets teeter off, or if anything, if people are front running that process, then you're going to see pump and dumps, and that's not good. But then when market settles out and reality strikes, you see prices, a lot of prices dump before they end up stabilizing again. And what you would see is that, and it would just hurt a lot of those supporters, those initial supporters, and that's not what we want. So instead, with the market we have now, we start out to where, and it's really awesome because by securing a truly very easy to attain, I'm not going to say numbers yet, but we've run some models. We'll say like an easy to attain, a modest expectation for LBP. By having a modest expectation, we're able to provide our supporters an entry point at hopefully the fairest or among the fairest opportunity points possible. So that's fair on them. Ideally, no one's getting rugged. That's good. It's healthier. Also, because where we're starting, we start low. So then when let's talk strategy. You know, like if when someone's looking at charts later, they're gonna see there's not gonna be like this big dump. They're gonna see this steady rise, this project that has been kicking ass through the bear market. And then when things kick off, like that's the position we want to be in, and we want to have as many people, as many community members as possible along for that ride. And it might not be, like, who's to say it? Maybe I'll say this: it's also more of a headache. Other options, but if it might possibly could be like a sacrifice of pursuing some bigger numbers. But as far as taking care of the community and making sure that everyone has the most ideal experience possible, like, this is how we do it. So with all of that, again, it's just thinking about the long game. We're not just thinking about today. We're not thinking about tomorrow. We're thinking about 6 months, 5 years, 20 years. We're thinking down the road, and at every pivotal point of this vision, how will things look, and what will the state of people's experiences be, and how do we plan today to make sure that through this journey they can have the most ideal, strong experience as possible. So LBP land it is. Yep.
Thank you to both teams for going through the question series. It's now time to open up the floor to our awesome audience who would like to ask any questions they may have for either teams or both. So if you'd like to ask your question, request to speak by tapping on the request icon, and we'll let you on stage.
And just fair warning, I got a meeting in 14 minutes. So I have until then. Yeah. Also, forewarning, we have this hot streak of like no questions after an AMA. I think it's a good thing. People say it's a good thing, but I don't know. I like questions. Surprised nobody asked when.
That is a great question. When LBP?
Oh, yeah. I guess I gotta set up for that then.
People know.
With that, well, yeah, my bad.
It's 3 weeks.
Yeah, in 3 weeks. Yeah. If you know, you know. With that, so right now, just running some dry tests, final tests of everything on our Cocoa. Gotta obviously make sure things are good to go. But pending all of that, we'll provide once we have like the set date, we're gonna provide it obviously as soon as possible. But whether that is something like October 5th or it's something like October 12th, or somewhere in between that, that is the question right now. But I figured I'll at least give you that estimation, that outlook for the individuals out there that are planners and preppers and stuff.
Sweet. So we do actually have a question from the funky one. Go ahead and ask your question.
I just felt bad that no one had any questions, so I was just going to toss out 42 as an answer, considering the audience.
Oh, that is the fun fact. All right, here. Let me
Thank
I'll
you,
give you
guys.
guys some facts before
Appreciate it.
I love that. So like fun fact with 42, Son of the Universe. But no, we ended up getting the 43rd. I believe was the one for the 40. We won the 43rd auction. I believe, but we had originally went for the 42nd auction, and it was just a little bit of nerdism there. That's you know, just look up, just Google 42 is the Center of the Universe and find the reference for those who don't know. But yeah, it was a little nerd, like Easter egg. Not really, because anyone could go for 42, but there was an actual like personal reason why we liked that number. And then another fun fact, I'll just say this is kind of in the spirit of the community. Like it is important to note that, as been shown, it's like Moonbeam, private funds, Moonriver, no private funding, very successful. InvArch, who've taken in private funding, Tinkernet. It's important to note that we had originally allocated, like we had set aside, planned for private funding. We never ended up doing it. I'm gonna be honest. We're just building and whatever. It wasn't really concerned. And now we've come to the points where it's like we kind of prefer it otherwise. So we have all that going there. But in the sake of like for the community, this community driven train, one of the things we kind of have fun with is it's about to year's going to change here soon, so it won't be true anymore. But it was the 20th, the 25th anniversary. It was the 20th anniversary of Halo, and for Master Chief, he's Spartan 117. So yeah, the token supply 117. It was 117. Now it's 11.7 after a community vote. But those are your fun facts for the day. Thank you, Funky One.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? I saw Dow on to Earth requested. I don't know if you still wanted to ask your question, but please do come up if you'd like, or anyone else for that matter.
So if there aren't, cut me off, AJ, and let me know. But if there aren't, then guess we can kind of move along to giving our like closing statements, little salutations for everyone before we move along with the rest of this day and this awesome week that we got. Which
Yes.
I mean, I should probably then do that. Yeah. So with that, I want to thank everyone here. As always, I mean, I truly appreciate people taking the time to come in to listen to these. Try to share the vision as much as possible, but like it means a lot to see everyone, whether it's a handful or a large number of people, come around to support what we're building. It's very empowering. It's validating, and it means the world to us. We promise, like, really mean this. Like, really want to make you all proud. Like, we don't want to let anyone down. So it's a big responsibility that we're proud to have. We're honored to have. And you can imagine the Bernie Sanders meme, but once again, we are asking for your support and would greatly, of course, understanding the mechanics of an LBP. Obviously, would love to see as many people who are possible participate. And thanks to the very nice ideal mechanics behind Basilisk, you don't have to be a big player. Ideally, we get as many individuals, big, small, medium, it doesn't matter, individuals to participate in this process as possible, to have the most ideally distributed token that we can have, which is, it's just essential. This is a community chain. So with all that, again, just thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for all your past and hopefully, continued support. And man, we're really excited for what we got going on. So we can't wait for the future.
And Yakov for your final
I would just
statements.
add that in like coming days, we will be releasing content about like how what to do in the LBP, how it works with more specific parameters, of course, with like specific date. And then I would like to thanks to all of us to coming, to find some time today, and to InvArch team to hosting us. And yeah, please support these guys as like new blood of the Dotsama and building one of the most powerful and most important Web3 primitive, because without light clients and without unstoppable code, there is no Web3. It's just Web 2.0 with additional steps.
I'm gonna clip that and share that later. That was awesome. Thank you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. LOL McShiz, did you want to give a final statement?
Just thanks everybody for coming, and looking forward to aping with some fellow apes when go on to the LBP.
Gabe, you wanna sign us off here?
And no FOMO,
Yeah.
guys. Wait.
Oh, yeah. I get it now. I'm not supposed to just throw all my GSM when it starts. But thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. And look forward to that 3 weeks.
Beautiful. And with all that being said, in conclusion, thank you so much for everyone who joined in for the first episode of Tinker Talks. Thank you to Jakob and LOL McShiz from Basilisk Finance, the HydraDX team, and Dakota and Gabe from InvArch Tinkernet. And I wish you all a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
GN.
GN.
GM.
Thank you, everybody.